Hello and welcome to the stubzcast, the Content Creator Hub podcast, where I interview and have conversations with content creators, developers. Recently, I don't want a developer, basically anyone who's in content creation. That could be writing articles, websites, making music within games, development, any kind of content creation for videos in gaming. It's good to have a chat. That's kind of what the idea is, and you share knowledge, tips and tricks on what you've learned and the journey through content creation, how people got into it, the stories that I've learned over the past 45 interviews is quite incredible because sometimes people tell you stuff they don't even expect to say. Sometimes it's quite an interesting process it is. But anyway, this week we have on our friendly pest. He's a VR content creator. He's kind of honed in on that recently. Also, a great podcast. It hasn't returned yet, but it's been a while. Carry On Gaming podcast. Welcome, a friendly pest. How are you doing?
Very anxious. Very anxious. Thanks for having me. Yeah, focused on the VR content lately because it's what interests me, and I like to focus on what interests me. And you're right, we haven't done a podcast since before Thanksgiving, and I am not confident that show is going to come back. But yeah,
It
that was
was
a fun
it
show
was fun.
anyway.
We'll get into that later, but that was definitely a good show. I liked it. Plus the fact that you weren't a really long podcast, where a lot of podcasts now are like. Admittedly, I do one weekly. It's 2 hours, but it's nice to have podcasts that are a lot shorter. It is as well because not every podcast has to be like two. Well, some podcasts go into the 4 or 5 hours territory. It's a lot to listen to, right? It was short and sweet, to be honest, and you got to the point. You did. It was a great show. Hopefully, eventually, it comes back.
Yeah,
Eventually,
yeah, we'll
you never
see.
know. Hint, hint.
Everybody's kind of doing different things right now. They're in different places in their lives, so it was always a challenge to get organized enough for a recording. It's part of the reason we did the pre-recorded and edited, which is another reason that it was short and sweet because we would generally chop out probably 30% of what we actually recorded to make the final cut. But it was
That's fair
fun,
enough.
and I don't know, maybe one of these days we'll get our act together and we'll start doing that again. In the meantime, I've been staying busy kind of with my own thing, which I've also been enjoying. So I miss it, but I don't miss it because it was also a lot of stress to organize it.
That's fair enough. I know it's like organising podcasts. It is. But yours was what yours was quite different. Yours was actually a podcast,
Well,
whereas
kind of, right?
no, I say that because it might sound strange because I do live podcasts. Now, podcasts when they used to be about when they first started, they used to be you'd record it, you edit it, and you'd upload it, and you'll see who listens to it. That's a lot more scary to me than me going live and
Really. So
doing it
it's
doing it that
completely the
way.
opposite for me. Completely opposite for me.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
terrified
yeah.
right now, and I appreciate that, Darth. I'll have to carry the stick as that is my option in this case. Um,
Yeah, no, UK does. Yeah, thanks for telling me we were 6 minutes late, and I like to be late. By the way, if you hadn't noticed, midweek gaming normally starts at 4 minutes, 5 minutes late. So I wait till someone moans in the chat, then I go live.
on the other hand,
Usually.
I can't stand being late, and I'm 30 minutes early for work and live 5 minutes away. So
Oh,
my
fair.
hands were sweating, but I'm okay.
But no, so when did you get into gaming then? When was your first memories?
Well, I brought my resume, as you see my picture there on the screen.
Oh, you did,
And
yes, yes.
I got that console at age 4, and that's an interesting story. My grandfather, who I'm named after, was killed in an accident with a drunk driver, and
Oh no.
some family members felt sorry for me, and because they didn't know what else to do, bought me an NES. And so I
Okay.
spent a lot of time with that console almost as therapy. I know that sounds weird, but it gave me a distraction that we needed in life because my dad was also in the vehicle with my grandfather, and he was badly injured, nearly
Oh,
lost his leg. So therefore, I mean, you can see I'm already wearing hand-me-down clothes, and we grew up really poor as a result of that accident. So gaming for me was an escape from my reality. I did not grow up badly, but I grew up poorly and kind of sheltered also. Didn't have a lot of engagement with regular kids. We moved out in the country, and kind of figured things out on my own running around in the woods. So whenever I actually did go to a bigger public school, it was complete shock to the system. Was horribly unprepared, and part of the reason that I get so socially anxious now. But yeah, that's one of my earliest gaming memories, the NES, which
Well, that's kind of what gaming's about, finding an escape where when you put a game on, if it can take you out of reality and make you stop thinking about, all like you said, the tragedies that happen and the bad stuff. It's kind of what they say gaming's for. It's more it's what it's meant to be for. Like like nowadays, all the crap in the world. It's a good escape, gaming is. To be honest, it is.
absolutely.
But thanks for sharing that. I know that must have been
Yeah,
hard
sure,
for you to
sure.
share
You know,
because
and we had an
that's
Atari 2600, which, by
mm,
the way, was awful even then. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You know what I mean? The NES was so far ahead of that. It's like, don't get me wrong, the Atari was cool. Terrible system, terrible games. Sorry for anybody that wasted their time developing software for that platform. The NES was pretty awesome. I had a good time with that. And I remember when the Super Nintendo came out, my mind was just completely blown. You know, what it was capable of. I loved that system. So I grew up on Nintendo. We did have a Sega Master System and a Genesis as well at some point. I
yes,
had
Sega.
I had a half brother that was older, and he used to trade around and come up with used consoles and stuff. So we never had the latest and the newest, but I got to experience those consoles.
That's good though. No, it doesn't matter exactly if you have it on time, but you mentioned some really good names there. If you know me, you know that I love Sega. I still love Sega. Sega fanboy.
No, I had fun on my Sega. You know, I had Pit
Yeah,
Fighter and Sonic the Hedgehog and this great racing game called Hard Driving, which probably started my interest in racing games, to be honest, because that was a really cool
nice.
kind of early 3D game. But the Super Nintendo was far and away my favorite. You know, I think Super Mario World's the best Mario made to date, and that Mario Kart was excellent. I really had a great time on that platform.
No, that's good to hear. It's you mentioned Sonic, which is one of my favourites. Don't let Bowman Gamer hear that. He does not like Sonic at all. And welcome to Judzilla Music, Darth Praxis. Mr. Joanna Dark has just dropped in. Darth saying you're doing really well so far because I know you were
He's
slightly
super
nervous.
nice. I like that guy. He's super nice.
He's a nice guy. Just going back
He
at the
is.
chat. UK Dazarus. Who else we got? No, that's it so far.
Well, I
Yep.
tell you what, though, Sonic is one of the first games that could be played co-op. I remember that, and that started my love of co-op. You could play through a campaign with another person. I'm a huge fan of that. And there for a long time, I wouldn't play a game unless it could be played with another person. I don't think I don't think I played Halo in single player mode until I had cable internet, probably Halo 4-ish.
Okay.
Uh, that was kind of my first memory of playing with the full screen instead of split screen because I was so much a co-op multiplayer gamer.
So you've probably not played Halo Infinite yet, then?
I
If
have.
you love your cup.
I've completed the campaign. And that's another story. It was a tradition of mine. Every Halo since Halo 1, I had played co-op with a friend. Well, actually,
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
Halo 2. It was Halo 2. We started
Yeah.
that, but we played them co-op on the night of the release from beginning to end, and that was a tradition we had in parties and everything. And this is the first Halo where I couldn't do that. So playing through it was
So
pretty bittersweet.
so you didn't hold out thinking, well, saying that the way I'm not being nasty, the way they're playing with it at the minute, you might be waiting until 2023 to find out what's going on.
It wasn't that. It was if I could have, I probably could have waited and been okay with that. It was the fear that it would get spoiled for me before the
That's
time came to
very
play it.
true because there was you know how these people on Twitter like to go around ruining it for people. There was people actively doing that, trying to ruin it for people. There
Yeah,
was.
Halo 4 got spoiled for me before the release,
Did
but
it?
I was able to mind trick myself into thinking, well, maybe they're just making that up, and that's not really how it ended. You know what I mean? So I was still able to feel that pressure through the campaign. But yeah, I was afraid that would happen again. I wish
Yeah,
somebody
it's a
would have
fair.
ruined Halo 5 for me because it was terrible.
A lot. I hear that a lot from people. I mean, you're talking to someone here that hasn't completed Halo. Well, I've completed Halo One on the Master Chief Collection. I need to get through the rest of them.
Sure,
I've
yeah,
started
Halo
Infinite.
2 is really
I'm not a Halo
fantastic.
guy, you see.
I
I'm a
understand.
Gears
Yeah, you're
guy.
a Gears guy. You're a Gears guy.
Yeah.
But I really think, yeah, I didn't like Halo 5. Sorry, Darth. I felt like it ruined Halo 4, which was an important game. Like that game messed me up emotionally for weeks. So when 5 came out years later and made a lot of what happened in 4 irrelevant, it hurt my feelings, and so I didn't care for 5. But yeah, I don't think Halo should be played by yourself. Like Infinite, I had a good time with Infinite, but I've always felt like Halo was a co-op game, and I remember there used to be jokes back in early Halo days that playing Halo by yourself was like drinking alone. It meant you had a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that they couldn't deliver, even though they had like 5+ years or whatever of
Yeah,
development. They couldn't do
6.
that.
Yeah, I got hurt feelings on that too.
But
No,
yeah,
I
so there was,
actually thought the new campaign was pretty. I enjoyed Infinite. Would have been better co-op, but overall I thought it was a pretty good campaign. I thought the last half hour of it could have been shortened up. It got kind of repetitive. Could have been an email, but overall I did enjoy the campaign a lot. I liked what they tried to do. You know, despite the fact that it's launched very content light and didn't have co-op, which I think is pretty unforgivable considering the time. But who knows what's going on over there? As I keep like renewing my faith in them that this time they're going to get it, because I thought they really executed Halo 4 very well. And then I wasn't crazy about 5, and then Infinite, while a great game, came in so light. I'd love to know more what's going on over there. I hear often people
be a book
cheer
one
them.
day.
Well,
It will
people
be a
cheer.
book one day.
It should be a book one day, because
A
people
Netflix
often
documentary
cheer.
one day.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. I don't watch Netflix though. People often cheer them for being transparent, but I don't think that's really the case. I'd love to know what's really going on over there, and maybe they need to make some adjustments to their process and workflow to get where they need to be, or maybe even switch to a more standardized engine to offset some of the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know really anything about it. No one really does. It's just guessing, but it would help if they would plan out a roadmap and actually be a, they can say, oh, we're like they're transparent, but they're not. Everyone's like, where's the roadmap? Is future DLC, because it's supposed to be a 10-year game, is campaign included? If you buy Infinite, do you get all this extra content in with the price you paid, 60 quid or whatever? None of that stuff's been actually revealed. None of it. Do you know
That's
what I mean?
true. And I understand that they don't want to give a date to something that maybe isn't coming along, but I feel like that game must have really gone through some turmoil to even get to
Oh, yeah.
launch. And I'd like to know more about that. I'd like to.
Be fun. Fun
I
to know one day.
Yeah,
It
I
would.
feel like they must have put it down and picked it up a couple times before it finally got to the finish line, and now they're kind of doing the stuff that ordinarily you'd have done a couple years before it released. But who knows?
Exactly. But there's a lot of Sega Rally in the chat. Did you ever play Sega Rally?
I don't think so. Was that on the Genesis?
It was on. That was all. It was originally for the. Hang on. It was on the best port of it. I believe I've been told is the Saturn, but it was
Okay.
also on. This was also on the Dreamcast because I have it on the Dreamcast.
See, I didn't have a
But,
Saturn. I didn't have a CD. I got a Dreamcast, but that was kind of after they were already giving up, because I remember I picked it up used, or no, it was brand new at a store for like $80.
the
So they'd
Dreamcast
kind of
is
already given up at that point. But I really wanted it for Crazy Taxi, which I thought was a great
yes,
game.
that's a classic game. That is. Sega Saturn's one of the greatest machines ever, along with the
Oh, I wanted
what
one
you
bad.
would what you would call the Genesis Sega Mega, sorry,
Mega
the
Drive, yeah.
Sega Genesis, and we call it the Sega Mega Drive.
Yeah, I understand. You guys get
Right.
confused about proper names of things. It's okay.
I don't know. I can't remember what it was. There was a reason. It was they had to use different names in America as opposed to here. I can't remember what the reason was. Someone told me. I just can't think of what the reason why they had different names. But I have got all the games. I've got a cartridge with all the American games on, because you can buy a cartridge on the Mega Drive, and it's got every Japanese port,
Really?
supposedly American and the PAL UK or Mega Drive games and the Master System games. It's got an SD card plugged into the cartridge. I don't think Sega's bothered about that anymore.
I see Dan's
Tough,
comment there.
tough,
Simpsons
tough.
Road Rage better than Crazy Taxi. While that may
But,
be,
but
the music was uncomparable. I think Crazy Taxi wins in that regard.
Crazy Taxi is great. It is. It was. Oh, Dan Webb from Carry On Gaming. How you doing? That's just
Yeah,
popped
appreciate you
in.
coming out, Dan.
He was lurking, and he appeared with a comment. But yeah, Sega. So by the sounds of it, you would say you were more of a Sega kind of kid back then.
No,
To be
I
honest,
disagree. I think I was more of a Nintendo kid. Um,
sorry, I meant I tell you what, I was thinking of you said the SNES, and I was like, and then Sega came out my mouth. I meant to say you were more of a Nintendo kid. That's what I
hmm.
meant. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I was. My best memories are from, the early game memories are from the Nintendo. But that, not to say I didn't have some great games on the Genesis, but it seemed like the controllers were extremely unreliable and required a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? But like I said, consoles were traded around from my older half brother, and they weren't in the best condition. But it seemed like the controllers on our Genesis were pretty poor and unreliable. But it still had some great games. But yeah, I enjoyed the Nintendo. I preferred its controller and its games, and then later on in life, I remember the Nintendo 64 came out, and they used to have
Nice.
that giant floating Mario head in stores. You know what I mean, on a display. And man, I had dreams about owning that console. And I'd wake
Yeah.
up, of course, and didn't have it. Literal dreams of owning that console. And I remember when the time come, I had enough money, I could get that or a PS1. And my friends all convinced me that I should get the PlayStation 1. And man, I
Okay.
was never so disappointed my whole life as I was with the PS1. I I was trying to buy games, like I got
Yeah.
Medal of Honor instead of GoldenEye, right? Because I wanted GoldenEye, and it wasn't a patch on GoldenEye. You know what I mean? So that was a huge disappointment. I eventually did wind up getting a 64 for like $40 used from somebody.
That's a good price, especially nowadays. It would be
I think I've still got it.
good.
Yeah, it had a great wrestling game for it, Raw as War, which was awesome, and then GoldenEye was all time great game. That was my favorite version of Smash Brothers. I loved that. I really enjoyed my 64 when I finally got one. And then, of course,
Well,
Perfect Dark. Perfect Dark was a really cool game, especially
I
the multiplayer challenges with the slow motion mode and
yeah.
stuff. That was awesome. We had a great time with that.
I to be honest, I'm going to hold my hands up. I've never played Perfect Dark, so all the hype around this, whatever it is, this new version of the game, I have no nostalgia for the game. So we'll just wait and see what it's
Well,
like. But
the nostalgia, I really enjoyed Perfect Dark. I wouldn't say the nostalgia gives me any hope for the new version at all. Like I'm hopeful that it's going to be good, but I'm entirely sitting on the fence, just waiting to see what they do, because
that's
I
the
think
best
there's a
thing.
lot there's a lot ways that could go, and its foundation, while a great game, especially for the time, wouldn't pass today. So that'll be interesting. Speaking of
Yeah.
PS1 though, I'd like not to just trash on that console. I think my first game on that was Intelligence Cube with that, which I enjoyed. There was Medieval. Had this really cool game called
Medieval,
Future
yes,
Cop
that
that
was.
was kind of an
Nice.
early. Oh shoot, what's that? It was a really popular kind of isometric camera. You had minions that would go out and attack other bases, and you had what was that game called?
Oh, you're not on about Command and Conquer, no, no,
No, not
you're
Command and
not.
Conquer. This is newer than that. It was huge. League of Legends, maybe. Future Cop was kind of an early version of that.
League of Legends was there from the PlayStation One, was it?
No. But Future Cop was, and it
Oh,
had
Future Cop. Sorry,
yeah, it had
yeah,
the minions that crawled out, and you could spend points to upgrade them, and you could transform from a hovercraft to a mech, and it was a really cool game, and kind of put me in mind of later days League of Legends. That was a good PlayStation 1 game. And then, yeah, of course, I played through the some of the Tom Clancy games, and as Dan said there, that was a pretty Metal Gear Solid. That was an experience for sure.
yeah. That I've never. I obviously tried it on the PS1, but it wasn't my kind of. It's there are a lot of the games where you've got to sneak round and stuff like the assassinations and stuff.
I would say it was
Yeah,
probably the first game I ever played where you had to do that. So that made it really cool. Like, it's not my favorite way to
yeah,
play a game now, but because I'd never
yeah.
done that in a game before, it was awesome. If that makes sense.
No, that's fair enough. That is. So, did you ever did you transfer to? Did you ever play? Mr. Giant Dark just mentioned Resident Evil. Did you ever get into Resident Evil on the PlayStation One?
I played it some, but
Yeah.
I don't handle horror games well even now, but especially then I didn't handle them well. I remember one of the whichever one you start out in front of the police station and the zombies come at you,
Oh,
right? I
Just
thought it was
smash
a
through the
cutscene.
windows.
I thought it was a cutscene, like where you're standing by the
Oh,
burning cars. I got killed before I even realized I was supposed to be playing. You know what I mean? Because I thought it was a cutscene, and then those weren't really my jam. I was never a huge fan of tank controls. Um, Later on, I did go back and play them some, but still probably a little more action oriented, a little more Dead Rising than Resident Evil.
that's fair enough. Each, I mean, I'm not very good with the, how should you say, the horror genre. I never was back then. I wasn't. But there's loads of
Strangely
games
enough,
being made.
it's
Yeah,
grabbed me a bit in VR because
I can see why. That,
well, man, it's next level the way you're in there and the way it freaks you out. And you probably tell some of my early videos really brings it to it. I don't know. It's at the immersion level of the 3D and it being on your face. You kind of lose yourself in the illusion and allow yourself to be convinced of the simulation, and it's pretty awesome.
I bet that's made you jump. Surely, tell me that's made you jump out your skin. Being
Oh
in
yeah, jump,
VR.
scream, almost throw my
Oh, I
controller,
bet.
nearly fall down. Yeah.
Oh, easily. Yeah. Now that is really like a horror experience. That really would scare the. Now, if it scares the crap out of me, it's worked, isn't it? The experience is it's done its job. You know.
Exactly. And I wouldn't even say I've played games that intend to do that, but not to the level of like a modern Resident Evil, but the effect is there anyway.
Okay. So we've got someone in chat. I don't know if you know this gentleman, Chris Voorhees. He says
That's
his
that
gaming
yeah.
skills has not improved.
Yeah, he probably appreciate that his name's on there. That's yeah, I know him.
Fair enough. But yes, so did you get a PS2? Did you transition to PS2?
No, I at that point I went to Xbox, and that was I remember when Halo was first showcased on the Apple stage, and my friend had a compact, you know what I mean, and he had internet. I didn't have internet at the time, and I
Okay.
went to his house and I watched the original demonstration for what Halo was going to be. And the minute that they showcased the co-op, right, with the Warthog gunner, I had to have the game. Like I said, I'd say early Sonic had fascinated me on co-op, and that was my favorite way to play. So as soon as that I saw, this is next level co-op in a way that's not really been done well in a game up to that point, I had to play Halo, and I knew it was coming to the Xbox, and that's why I got the original Xbox. That was my first dual analog console, which, by the way, I was around 16 or something like that.
Okay.
Extremely difficult to adapt to the dual analog at that age. I found, I see kids today, the amazing things they're able to do in even a Fortnite, and whether you like that game or not, the skill they have with the analog sticks is just unbelievable. Because I remember when I first had analogs in my hands, I pretty much couldn't win on easy,
Because what's it called? Yeah, it was a big controller, wasn't it? That original Xbox controller was a very big controller.
It
I
was.
imagine it's quite a big adjustment, especially.
It
Did you
wasn't that.
did you have big
Total
did you
new
have big
muscle
hands?
memory. Yeah, I've always had my hands were up to the task. But it was and I wasn't on the internet, so I didn't have anybody to tell me that I should think the controller was too big. So it was just a matter of getting used to the controller in my hands, right?
That's fair
But
enough.
I didn't have the muscle memory for the dual analogs to understand the 3D plane and movement. So I originally played on legacy mode, even where the left stick also rotated and walked, and then the right stick would step you left and right and then pan up and down, and eventually switch to a more default control scheme.
Oh, that's good to hear. So, I had an interesting comment from on the previous stubzcast from Animated Evil about when he first tried his friend's Xbox, the original Xbox. Did you like the design of it? Because he thought it was horrible, but he loved playing it. He
Well,
did.
what did he not like about it?
Well, he was just saying that because he was so used to the PlayStation, and he had a friend, and just the look put him off. But once he tried it, he absolutely loved it. He did. Did you like the look of it?
The console itself, honestly, I didn't
Yes, the console
care.
itself.
I didn't care about that, and it's not a big thing for me. It's not an ornament. It's a platform.
Yeah.
So I didn't even think about it, to be honest. I was there for Halo, when it came out. I was excited. I liked that it had an internal hard drive and I didn't have to carry all those memory cards around anymore. And then the controller was wildly different than a PS1 controller, but my PlayStation 1
Most
controller didn't have dual
definitely.
analogs on it, so uh, that was all just learning new ground anyway. So yeah, I was just learning.
Do you have any other favourite games on the original Xbox? Is that what we
Um,
call it? Is that what we
yeah,
call that?
original
Is it?
Xbox is fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm all right with
yeah.
that.
I don't know what the actual name is.
Hunter the
Yeah.
Reckoning was a favorite of mine because it could be played 4-player co-op. And like I said, I grew up poor and really didn't have any money. So I remember I had to make my first insurance payment. Had this junk truck I drove around. So
Okay.
controllers
Yeah.
were crazy expensive and new games were crazy expensive, right? So I would often buy the Mad Catz ripoff controllers, and Hunter the Reckoning was responsible for the death of several of those. But that is
Oh,
a
really?
really oh man, you pulled the trigger so much. That's a really great classic game, and it's available in the backwards compatibility original Xbox catalog. Because I wound up buying it whenever they put it in there and playing it again just for old time's sake. I really enjoyed that game. So Halo is my favorite, and especially Combat Evolved has one of the most replayable campaigns because the levels are so broad and unfocused that you can go about your objective kind of however you want and explore. And at that age, I had a better attention span for thoroughly exploring what a game had to offer and seeing how I could break it and what I could find and figure out. And I would say today, I neither have the free time or the patience to do that. I stay more on the golden path than I used to. And I'm trying to think of other, of course, Fable. Of course, I was a huge Fable fan, and I'm pretty anxious to see what they do next with that. And I'm one of those guys that I really loved Fable 1 and 2. And then when 3 came out, I wasn't crazy about 3. But having gone back to it years later, I really appreciate it in a way I didn't before. I really like 3 also. Now 2 and 3 are probably my favorites.
Nice. So you obviously like the British humour that Fable comes with.
I enjoy absurd humor, and I don't care which region it comes from. But yeah, the British seem to like the sarcastic, absurd humor, which I enjoy thoroughly. Uh,
Hopefully, are you hoping they keep that element in the new Fable?
yeah, and I
Or
think they will because I think the trailer kind of showcased that. It really wouldn't be Fable without it, and I'm hoping that it has the same ability to purchase buildings and rent them out and do odd jobs and side jobs and level your character up and be affected by your decisions. I'm hoping that they stay pretty close to the formula because I think it's special in that way.
yeah, you would hope they wouldn't. They've really got to like appease the people that love the franchise and also try and cater to newer players that probably never tried Fable before. To see if they've got to get like the happy medium. Yeah,
Mm.
it's not an easy task. That
I
isn't.
don't know. I think it's an excellent formula, well executed. I don't think it'll have any trouble drawing a new audience, especially if they make it really widely available. Dan's asking me what I thought of the journey. I enjoyed that a lot, Dan. That was the Connect one, and when the Connect was working well,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. But it would often, like, I believe, if the system became overworked a little bit, then the Connect would become less accurate and you would struggle. But I thought that was a pretty cool game, and maybe even a VR port of that in the future would be cool.
Fair enough. That's answered your question, Dan. That has. Welcome to Toolman55 and welcome to VJ. He's probably sipping on a cup of tea. I think he forgets that VJ lives in America, not England, because he's just said he should be in bed by now. But he goes, "Oh, it's only 2:30 in the afternoon here." It's a big time difference, isn't there? There
Yeah,
is.
it's 5:35 here right now.
It's 10:35 here, PM. It is. But yeah, it's so All right, I bet that was awkward. Sorry about that.
No, I'm still here.
The screen, it said the studios got an error, and it's now back. Luckily, it didn't take too long this time.
Yeah, good.
I don't know what's going on. I might have to contact StreamYard. It can't be my computer because you said that time it was the software, but it's not software. It's web based. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, did you I'd imagine the natural progression then was into the Xbox 360.
Yeah, I didn't get it out immediately. I think I waited for Halo, and I think Halo came out around a year later, and I could be wrong on that. I don't think Halo 3 launched with the 360. I think it came out later, and I waited for Halo 3. Um, yeah, and I was fairly lucky. My first 360 lasted a long time before it finally red ringed on me, so I was much more fortunate than some.
Good to hear. That is. I only have it. I only ever had it once when I first got my Xbox. I plugged it into the wall straight away. Had a red ring. I turned it off, unplugged it for a few minutes, plugged it back in. Never had another problem again. So I was quite lucky in that way. I was.
But by that time, I finally had a decent job, and I had my first cable internet that I didn't have to go to a friend's house. I should have told that story. Is every Wednesday we had Halo night at my friend's house. He was the only one with a cable modem, and we'd go over there, and we had 49-cent cheeseburger days at McDonald's, and we'd play Halo all night using GameSpy. But then when the 360 finally came along, and I got one of those, yeah, I had my own cable internet, and I could kind of play at my leisure. I didn't really even play Halo 2 online because that friend and I kind of had a falling out a little bit. It didn't have access to internet to even play Halo 2 online. So yeah, I
Oh
followed
no.
I followed Halo
Okay.
to the
Yeah.
360. I skipped the PS2, but I did buy a PS3 because I remember the hype behind Haze was tremendous, and Resistance, I think it was called. And I played through both of those games, and while I have fond memories of playing through them, I didn't think they were great, and ultimately sold my PS3. And I bought that sucker back when they were even $600. You know what I mean? So I
Oh yeah, it's crazy
haven't had a
price.
PlayStation since. That was my last PlayStation.
Oh, fair enough. That was a crazy price though. That was. It was. But they made mistakes there, didn't they? They learned in the PS4 generation their mistakes. They did. But yes, it's so obviously you went into the Xbox One gen as well.
Yep, stayed with Xbox into Xbox One. One of my favorite gaming memories. I can get it off here. We had a friend, the person I like to co-op Halo with. I like to co-op a lot of games with. We had this other
Yeah.
friend that would
Okay.
would often come over uninvited, and man, he'd just make an ass of himself, right? He'd like make fun of the game we were playing or whatever. Just not good company, right? And if I was ever at
Okay.
my friend's house, I wasn't far from his, so he would appear on us. So when Gears of War came out,
Oh
yeah, if you
yes.
remember, it was cold. We stashed my car in his garage, and we actually played Gears of War in his cold garage with a kerosene heater. It was so dark.
Wow.
That's one of my best gaming memories, just to avoid that dude from like showing up and being toxic the whole time we were trying to play it. So that was a great experience. Really, I value that memory a lot.
That's fun. That was. Was that the Gears One launch when it first came out?
Yeah, we got it very close to launch. I remember
You were
a
ahead of
little bit of
me.
hype for that. Yeah, that was a great game.
Definitely, I would definitely agree with that. I didn't play Gears until I didn't get an Xbox 360 straight away. I didn't. I had Gears 2. Um, don't. I was advised, yeah, Gears 2, and then I was advised to get Gears 2, and then I got Gears 3. So yeah, I didn't start the Gears 1 at all. I didn't. But then I played through all of them. But that's enough of Gears talk for me. Enough people sick of
Tired of
hearing me.
talking about Gears, yeah.
But yeah, so any other fun memories you've got from gaming you want to share in general?
Just in general, huh? No, I hadn't thought about that. See, at that time, I was still absent from social media. I didn't really start coming on social media until Halo Reach, and that was to argue about how much I hated Armor Lock on the Bungie forums. So I still wasn't on like a Twitter or something like that. I didn't make my way onto Twitter until probably the Xbox One generation. And that was because I felt like I watched the original E3 and I didn't think it was that bad a conference, right? And I popped online and like I felt like there was a lot of outrage and misinformation that was kind of unfair from that presentation. Because I actually liked a lot of the ideas they had, like being able to buy a game physically and install that game and then have the disc on your shelf with all the advantages of a digital library, but then still be able to sell that disc later if you wanted to trade it off. So there was a lot I liked. And I think what we ended up with ultimately was better than what they promised the first time. But I felt like it was getting an unfair shake and targeted. And then so especially the Sony video of how to trade a game like irritated me in a way that like the Sega does what Nintendo doesn't or did back in the day. You know what I mean? Because I didn't like that either when I was young. That kind of drove me on social media. So my earlier engagement on the platform was pretty fanboyish, right? Because I was there to defend my precious Xbox. And I'd like to think I'd grown out of that some. It's still my favorite platform in general, but I've definitely calmed down on that kind of stuff. It's not real proud of some of my early engagement in that way, but I've one of the best things I ever came to was that when I was finally smart enough to realize that I didn't know everything and I was never going to be smart enough to know everything, and I probably wouldn't even know what it was I didn't know, right? So that I should just be an object in motion and learn as I went and try to do better the next day and be allowed to improve. And I think maybe that's something missing from society a little bit today is, everybody wants to do better, but you gotta forgive them for the person they used to be to let them be the person they want to be, whether they deserve it or not. So that factor of mercy, I think, is something that we could all work on a little bit.
That is true. That is true. Have a safe drive home, Daft Praxis. No typing in the chat. We don't want that to happen to you. We don't, but yeah.
Yeah, take care, my friend. Take care.
But you are right in general. I fully agree with that. Social media has made the problem a lot worse. It's people arguing over anything nowadays. I mean, whether it's console wars, the phone wars, Apple versus Android, all sorts. It's really bad, But
well, they want to hold everyone accountable for the person they were 10 years ago, and exactly. Not let them improve. And I don't know anybody born knowing everything or being perfect. You know what I mean? I'm certainly not the person today I was yesterday, and I won't be the same person tomorrow. And absolutely cringe at some of the early memories. It's something, actually, a huge fault of mine that I'm not ever able to forgive myself. I'm telling people to forgive each other, right? But like I still have regularly think about things I did as far back as kindergarten that bothers me. You know what I mean? That I didn't, and they'll be really minor things, but they'll cause me to hesitate and think about them occasionally. It's hard to let go on mistakes you made and try to just embrace that stuff now you didn't know then, and you want to be a better person, move forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's what's it called? Actually, on the comment, I'm amazed the fact that you can remember kindergarten.
Just the bad parts. Just the bad parts.
I can't really remember it, to be honest. I remember.
It's funny. It was probably 25 years later. This is so stupid. I'm going to tell you anyway. A little girl handed me a lollipop, right? And I thought she was giving it to me, but she wanted me to hold it, right? So I ate that sucker. Yeah. And then when she come to ask for it, I felt absolutely terrible. And I will still think about that, say, once a week. And 25 years later, I tried to reach out to that person on social media to apologize for it. You know what I mean? It's crazy. I was like, even something like that, I have a really hard time letting go. So it's difficult. It's a part of my personality I'm working on.
Yeah, it's some people are like that, have it, but I'm sure you'll get there.
Quiet, Dan.
You seem to
Quiet.
be stealing candy from a baby. Don't get me started. Ask, do you know Italian clowns?
Yeah,
Ask him about. You must have heard about the Xbox baby story.
I have not.
You need to go and Google that, or ask him about the baby in the Xbox. It's Series X, Series S. It's a funny story. It is. But yes, but no, it's one of them things you just work on and try and improve over time. It is.
But you have to hold your. Well,
It
it's not to
is.
the extreme. I'm doing it right. I'm doing it wrong, obviously. But you have to hold yourself accountable for things you've
Yes.
done. If
Yeah.
you are to
To
recognize
improve.
ways you could improve, right? Exactly, and you gotta have honest conversations with yourself and other people, and hopefully with your friends, right? Thanks, Darth. If you if you value a friendship and you respect them enough, to tell them where they're misstepping so they could do better. But you got to measure that because some people can't handle it. And that doesn't mean you don't wish them well and you don't want them to do better, but you kind of have to help each other as best you can. I've lost friendships that way where I was a little too honest. It was when I was a child, my parents used to warn other people, say, don't ask Grady for his opinion because he's going to tell you. And they worked on me and improved that. And I got to where I was a little more probably an overcorrection where I would try to tell people what they wanted to hear instead of what I
Yeah.
really thought. And I've
Oh,
worked my way
okay.
back towards the middle a little bit.
Really? Don't ask him what he honestly thinks. He'd be too brutal.
Yeah, well, as a little kid, don't know anything, but I'm going to tell you
Well,
100%
most
what I
kids
thought,
are, you
right?
see.
Yeah.
They don't know. It's like because kids can be brutally honest, and they don't realise that what they're saying could hurt you, or they don't realise. A lot of kids don't. I mean,
No,
some older kids do, but
and
kids are
pretty good with
truthful.
empathy, right?
Yeah,
And recognize that maybe somebody's having a bad day and they're not
yeah,
really putting forward the best version of themselves, and you got to trust that 'cause you never know what anybody's going through. A lot of people keep the most serious stuff quiet. It's and some like the attention as well. You never know, but people can be going through some stuff that you don't recognize, and you got to give them a little room sometimes. You know what I mean?
it's true. That is true. So, when did you start getting into? I want about before you started podcasting, before you started making any kind of content. How did you kind of get into, say, uh, was it podcast you listened to on YouTube, or was it when you first got into Twitter? How did you like what? Because did you like listen to gaming podcasts on YouTube or like podcasts you download on your phone, or like how did you start getting into the community? Was there any kind of people you watched before you somehow got into the community, built up, made some friends in the community? Like,
I don't think I successfully made any friends in the community until recently. That's kind of a new thing where I stayed inside
okay,
my circle, but I honestly, I started creating content early Xbox One generation because it was very easy to capture footage,
yeah,
and then there
okay,
were sites where you could download it, and then I could make these opinion videos because I really felt like I had a unique perspective on some of the stuff people were talking about or the games, etc. And then I had a couple silly series that I did for certain games specifically just for gameplay. But my content was always kind of short, direct to the point, like Carry On Gaming podcast. I think I
it was.
effectively communicate what I want to say quickly, which is not great for a longer podcast format. That's what got me started. I don't recall watching much content before I got started. Um, Other than just generally being on Twitter, I came to Twitter for the game news because I felt like it was the quickest way to get new information on upcoming games, etc. Which led to me being rickrolled about 12 times before I even understood what a rickroll was. Um, that's a different story.
Okay. It's so you didn't actually. So it's only recently you've made any kind of friends in the community.
I would say,
Um,
yeah, very. Uh, changed my name several times even because I would pop in with what I thought was funny or sarcastic, and people would misread that and think I was serious. So I changed it to Friendly Pest to try to give people a heads up that I wasn't being as serious as they thought I was. But I joined an early community game night with Mr. Tushy and his cousin Lee, and I
Yeah.
think we played
Okay.
Destiny 2 maybe. And then I did that a couple times and stepped away and came back to that. And then I started kind of meeting the different people in the community. And because I was making friends, I started paying attention to the content they were creating. 'Cause, like low key, I've always had a little bit of animosity towards content creators because a lot of what they do is for attention, or they'll support people they think will help themselves, and I've kind of held them in contempt, sort of a little bit. But then when I made friends with people, I thought it fair that I support them and pay more attention to their content, and maybe that's what's pushed me to create more.
Yeah, I mean, I would have. Yeah, I can see what you mean about against the content creator because yes, a lot of them do. Obviously, they're trying to attract, how you word it, more. I'm not trying not to call it clickbait, more clickable content because the YouTube algorithm likes you to make clickable content. But I do see what you mean, where certain people will surround themselves with people that know they're bigger or they
Yeah, and
can get them
they'll
further.
they'll echo each
You know,
other, and and
oh,
nothing
echo
against
chamber
them.
podcasts.
Exactly, and nothing against them because they're successful in ways that I've not managed. But some of that feels less than authentic, and I don't prefer that. It's not fun for me to watch. If I can see the strings they're pulling to try to draw eyes, then I'm not interested. You know what I mean? If I want someone's opinion, I want the real opinion, not something they're trying to use to draw attention and fire. And I'll stay clear of those people, regardless of the success it seems to gather in some circles.
Yeah, I can see why you because can see why that because it's hard. Um, I watch a variety of content creators, and you can see the differences. You can, but generally, a lot of the content I watch, the bit with the stuff I like the best. Some of uh, it's more genuine. There's a lot of content, like your content creators like yourself. There's content creators like Indie Gamer who does an indie games podcast, and there's more. I try and go for the ones that don't clickbait, basically. You know what I mean? There's a lot of independent websites out there as well that do a great job, like Season Gaming. They don't do any of that clickbait nonsense.
Well, and
They don't.
I'm
Yeah.
also not very interested in a lot of other people's opinions on things, um, especially if it falls under the realm of speculation. I am not, and that's not a shot at fun speculation, by the way. I'm
I
sincerely
know.
not
Yeah.
interested in
Yeah.
speculation. If I'm aware of all the information, I can form my own opinion, right? And it is completely
Yeah. Exactly.
worthless. Is completely worthless until more information is revealed. So it's like
It
people
is.
spent tremendous amounts of time arguing about whether certain games would be exclusive or not, or this or that, and going. It's like, I mean, I don't care about any of that. I don't care. We won't know until we know, and in the meantime, it's not worth talking about. So my favorite kind of content to watch usually is not news based so much as people just having a good time. Um, I have a soft spot for artists and musicians when they create, excuse me, pictures or different musical talent. Like I really enjoy that. Or if they just play a game and have a good time and have a clip for that, some kind of skit like that, very entertaining. It's like news based stuff. Like I'm pretty informed when it comes to this hobby, at least, and I've got my own opinions.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big watcher of that type of content, to be honest.
No, that's fair enough because a lot of people. It's like there's certain podcasters. Some podcasters don't listen to any podcast because it is technically that is the best way. So you can't be influenced by what someone else says. It's just your own raw opinion. It is. That's
Well,
probably probably
I'm
probably the
really
best
only
way.
interested in listening to something if I think I'm going to learn something. And if I have access to the same source information they do, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Now that does exclude, of course, anyone that might be an insider and want to leak something. But often I don't want to know when it comes to that. I like to be surprised in the way that a platform wants to surprise me about content that comes. I don't like something being leaked the day before. Like, let it slide. I understand they have to do it for clicks and engagement. A lot of them, that's even their job. So I don't fault them, but I like to let that stuff happen naturally. So in that way, I am driven away from news-based content or people that do have inside tracks on information.
No, I totally understand that, because YouTube is the greatest source in the world, but the problem is it's filled with probably 97% of just opinions and false information and misinformation. But there is information out there if you're willing to research it.
Sure.
It's not difficult, but many people don't know how to use Google and work out what websites are genuine.
But I tell you,
etc.
one of my least favorite things is to learn about something when it's still a long way out. Like, I don't really like games being announced more than a year away, and I'm pretty consistent on that. Like the Fable, for example. Man, that was announced forever ago, and I will be burned out on a game before it ever comes out. So I like stuff to be a little closer, a little more ready to be done, a little less subject to sudden changes that might delay it a year or two. So I don't really look that hard on purpose, because I'm really more interested in stuff I'm going to be able to play immediately or look forward to immediately, if that makes sense.
Well, no, it's the right way. It's the right way of thinking. It is like with Fable. So you didn't actually see anything with Fable. What how about it have explained to me what Fable was probably the green light pitch to Microsoft. That was probably the trailer that they made to come up with Fable. They probably didn't see anything that would. It was just a nice CGI trailer.
Are you speculating? Because I don't like that.
But yeah, I am speculating, but that's what it looks like.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows, right? And it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It doesn't really matter. It don't.
But I'd love
Yeah,
for that game to come out. I'd love, huge Fable. Can't wait. I'm stoked for that game. Why did you announce it so early, right? Because I'm glad they're making one, but damn, it's been
exactly.
so long.
Thanks for popping by, Judgezilla. Take care and welcome, VJ. And I think Removal Sanity's about somewhere as well. But yeah, no, you are right. That game will probably come about halfway through the generation.
That's the worst part of our hobby, isn't it? Because you're
Exactly.
always waiting for the next thing. You're always waiting. It's nice to look forward to things. That's fun. Sometimes waiting is more fun than actually getting the
Problem
game.
is the waiting. You can wait that long, and in the end, is this what I was waiting for? I don't.
Well,
really
it's never as good as you'd hoped it'd be. You know what I mean? And they never quite check all the boxes they hope you were going to check. But looking forward to things is fun. I enjoy that part of the hobby. But man, that far out is too far. It's hard to sustain the enthusiasm. I like the 3 months leading up to a game I'm excited about is the best part for me. I'm pretty excited to think about it. It's like, man, what kind of food am I going to get? When am I going to play this? Am I going to be able to get away from work to do it? What's it going to be like? And that, not as much as I used to, because I used to really get excited about things like that. And I feel like and maybe it's age or just how much I've played different games or whatever. It's not a lot that a game can do that I've not seen before. So it's hard for me to get as excited about games as I used to. In that way, I guess a game you haven't seen for a long time is exciting just because it's something different. But I like when something comes at you and you question how far you can push the simulation, right? What is going to be possible with this game that maybe they couldn't do before? And in that way, I'm interested, right? I don't. Same reason I don't care for popcorn flicks. A great example, I would say, Red Dead Redemption 2, the NPC work they had done and the campfire scene. You spend a lot of time just seeing what the game can do that you haven't seen before. How far did they push it? How deep did they go? And that's probably why that's one of my favorite games ever made, if not my favorite. And that's also what's drawn me to VR, is because I don't know how far the simulation goes. I don't. For one, you're interacting with things you're not used to interacting with. You're picking things up and moving them around and manipulating. It's like, one of the games I'm playing regularly, Into the Radius, you eject the magazine. You can't just let it fly. That's your magazine. You put it in a pouch. You're
Yeah.
going to have to reload that thing later, do maintenance on it. And those tedious tasks that you don't have to do in other games because they wouldn't be fun there are interesting and engaging, and in a way in VR brings to the table that you can't do otherwise. And it's part of the reason I've also chose this picture for myself, because at that age, with that controller in my hand, I had no idea what a game could do. And I had no idea what the next version of that game could do. And I was excited about that. And VR brings a little bit of that back, where I wonder what this game's going to be able to do, how far that simulation's going to go, what the NPCs are going to be capable of in a way that I haven't felt in a long time, and makes me, not quite as excited as I was when I was younger, but brings some of that youth back to me in a way that I'm really enjoying. And it's become my primary way to play for now.
Well, that's good to hear. That, and then that is what making a YouTube channel's about. You've got currently your passion is VR, and you can see that passion throughout your videos. You can on VR, because it's not. I don't know. I don't Google. Sorry, I don't look on YouTube a lot. Is there a lot of YouTube? VR based content on YouTube that people are actively looking for, watching?
Yeah, and it's got decent
Yeah.
engagement too. I would say their content's a little bit different than mine. In mine is
Okay.
more of a long play, almost just like a stream would be, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but streaming VR is a little challenging because they haven't come up with any great convenient ways to overlay a chat box so you could interact with an audience, right?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes,
Yeah.
you're
So
right there.
my long plays are really, and I'm very intentionally not trying to be entertaining in any way other than the way I would normally play a game, because that's another peeve of mine. I don't enjoy when someone's trying to be a clown. You know what I mean? It's getting carried away, etc. So what I really just try to do is play the game as I normally would, and not get too upset when I stumble or mess up with the mechanics, and then give voice to my thoughts. And then maybe if, some low-hanging fruit for something funny or clever comes along, I'll jump on that. But I'm really just trying to play the game how I would normally play the game, how I would expect to experience it. Because, in my opinion, a lot of the other VR YouTubers become very good at a game before they make a video for it, and give a false impression
Oh,
of
so
what
it's
you would.
fake.
It's not fake.
Ah.
It's not fake.
Oh, yeah.
But they are already at a level that you're not going to be. You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh,
I
fair.
also, and they're terrible videos. They're terrible. I'll put my tutorial experience up as I played through it, and they're horrible, terribly frustrating. And they were for me too, because it's one thing I've noticed, and maybe I've always been bad about this, but it seems especially prevalent of late. It takes me a while to learn a game. It takes me a while to get good
Okay.
at a game. I feel like once I do, I can be above average. But my tutorial woes, as I call them, are very frustrating and hard to watch, and I don't recommend them in any way, but I put them up as an authentic part of the experience to get to where I am later on in the series as I play these games.
Well, no, that's good, because you're not obviously playing the game over and over and over till you know you're great at the game to make the video. People can see that as more, as you say, raw and authentic, and it will come across to people watching it that will, rather than somebody who's gone out, played the game multiple times, so they basically mastered the game, and then it just is smooth sailing.
Yeah, and you could tell a big difference if you watched my first episode of Into the Radius and compared it to my latest, or the one right before that. Tremendous difference in competence and confidence, and my experience with the different mobs and how I can handle them, and what, it's completely different. Even I've only put up 2 episodes of my Skyrim series, because I also never really played Skyrim, by the way. I played it very little when it came out. And then, so really my first Skyrim experience largely is going to be in VR, right? So, which is interesting,
Okay.
because it wasn't built from the ground up for it. And I've installed multiple mods, but you can tell even from the first episode on that to the second one, how much I've improved my ability to handle the game mechanics. And that's another thing I like about VR is, like, take my dad, for example. He was never interested in video games. Any platform that
Okay.
came along, I always tried
Yeah.
to get him interested in video games. And when the Quest came out, the Oculus Quest, or Meta Quest, the Facebook VR headset that The first time I put him in that headset, he was able to play the game and he had a good time. So much that he would come over to my house to play with it, and we ended up getting him one. And he'll play it regularly in his free time after work. And I've never been able to get him interested in video games before that, and he loves it. So in that way, because people are used to using their arms and reaching for things and grabbing things, the learning curve initially isn't nearly as steep as handing somebody an Xbox controller and saying go.
That's an excellent story, because VR isn't something everyone would like to try, but you've managed to convince him to, and you've also bought him a VR headset. That's great. That that is because you wouldn't have thought someone from that generation would enjoy VR, would you?
I think I kind of disagree there. I think it
Ah, okay.
yeah, I think it everybody I've put inside the headset has had a little bit different experience.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but I would say they've all been uh, impressed in one way or another. And especially so people like different headsets. I prefer the Oculus Quest 2 because it's wireless, because it's kind of a console in its own way. It has its own
Yeah.
walled garden library of games that work for it, but either with a link cable or over your home Wi-Fi, you can drive PC games through that headset, and that makes it very versatile. So in my man cave, I've got some room to move around. And
Excellent man cave, I must add, because I've seen many photos of that.
thank you,
Looks
sir.
great.
That was a
It does.
15-year dream realized finally. That's an accumulation of all the skills that I had developed up to that point to be able to build that. So I'm pretty proud of it, because there's a lot of me in those walls. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of
Yeah,
time to be able
definitely.
to do that. But back to the headset, my PC is actually in the house in the basement, and I connect to
Yeah.
it with my headset in the man cave, and I have this huge library of games that I can play wirelessly. And man, I think it's a fantastic headset, and I suspect they're going to come out with a third one later this year that I'm pretty anxious to see what they do.
Well, they would only, because obviously I listened to the audiobook of the basically original owners of Oculus, and a story. Have you ever read that book or listened to it on the original owners of Oculus?
No, yeah, I'm
It's
not even familiar
incredible.
with it. Never heard of it.
I will find it and tell you which one it is, and it's incredible. The guy that invented Oculus was told multiple times he was crazy. This VR stuff will never take off. And basically, the only reason they sold to Zuckerberg in the end was he realized that in order to get VR where it needs to be, because it's still not there, like to be perfect, you need to spend millions upon millions and billions in investment to get it there. And he didn't have that kind of money. So in the end, Zuckerberg offered him whatever he offered him, and he done it for the greater good of VR. He did, but
Well, I'll tell you what, it's exciting.
yeah,
It's exciting in this way. Like you
yeah,
take an Xbox One X and compare it to a Series X, right? And I understand the Series X loads much faster, right? But you,
yeah,
despite the fact that it's twice as powerful, you're seeing diminishing returns, right?
yeah,
And if you had something that was 3 times as powerful as the Series X, you're finally going to have ray tracing with a good frame rate, et cetera. So there's going to be that difference. But otherwise,
yeah,
diminishing returns, right? And I'm not saying I'm not excited for the future of console or PC gaming, because I am. But with VR, I think where we go next is going to be more exciting than where we are now. If you look at that as a
yeah,
curve, right? It's early. It's flooded with indie games because there's not enough headsets out there to justify the tremendous investment for a huge project. So you've got a lot of small creative games, and it's going to blow up in a way that gaming on console did in the early days, right? It's very exciting, and I think if you can get enough people to try it and adopt it and overcome the initial challenges like the nausea and things like that, and hopefully that improves as well for future headsets. I think the future of it's really exciting.
I know. Did, I do think there is a potential in it, because I did try. I went on holiday a few years ago to Spain, and they had like a big games room and they had a VR headset, and it wasn't anything on what you've got. It was the PlayStation VR, the first headset basically. And I tried Drive Club. Would it have been Drive Club? It really old game. It didn't look. I tried it and they make you sit down,
Sure.
but you still use a controller.
Yeah.
That's what I didn't get as well.
Well, I tell you what, there's a program you can get on Steam, an application you can get on Steam. I'm old enough, I don't like the word app, right? But you can play older games that are not VR compatible with, like I saw somebody playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider in VR, but with a gamepad in their hand, right? And I think that might be a really interesting experience. Actually, it's like not completely a VR experience, you know, I mean, kind of a hybrid. But the 3D effect makes you appreciate things in a way you don't really appreciate even with a really excellent monitor.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you know more than me on the VR. I know nothing. But
Well, and I don't know as much as
yeah,
some, right? Because
yeah,
I was kind of an early adopter. I got one of the first Windows headsets, was the Samsung Odyssey or something like that, and it was one of the first headsets with the inside-out tracking. It doesn't require satellite cameras. It has cameras on the headset. They track the room, and then they know how you're moving, right? But they need to be able to see the controllers to know where the controllers are. And as you'd swing over your shoulder to grab something, it kind of, based on algorithms, assumes what your intention is and makes it happen. It wasn't very good at that. And it did have an excellent display, but other than that, it was not an amazing headset. It had a wire, a fairly short wire. So if you were standing in the room and got tangled up, you could accidentally yank your PC off your table. You know what I mean? So
oh no,
I played with that quite a bit for several months, and then I kind of fell off. And then when the man cave was finally done and I had room and I was able to get the Oculus Quest 2, that was a huge improvement. And then a fellow member of Carry On Gaming came over one time and borrowed my headset. That I Am Universe 25, who's the music director, producer, arranger, pretty talented, even if most of his music's pretty bad. Except the stuff we participated in, we brought the best out of him. He borrowed my headset and he got really excited about it in a way that I had kind of fallen off of, and it brought me back in and kind of got me back into that actually.
Yeah, I remember hearing that you talk about them stories on Carry On Gaming before. So that's quite good. That is the fact that you would also lend him your VR headset to start with. So that was quite nice.
We've known each other a long time. We used to work together, and yeah. So I didn't mind loaning it to him, and it worked out. It's fun to have other friends that are excited about something you have or that you're excited about, because then you can share the hobby with someone, right? And that's a little bit of a challenge in VR because you got less people are into it, less people to talk about, because it's half the fun of games is talking about them, I guess.
It is. But I do think there's a future in VR, and I think one day it will explode. But it's not explode; it will get big. It may very well explode one day. It might, but it's not going to be an easy thing because obviously Facebook's pushing it, and Facebook have pushed it that much that because they want that to be part of the VR to be part of the metaverse, don't they?
Yeah, and I honestly I don't know much about that.
He lost, but because he pushed it that much, he lost. The company lost something like 230, 250 billion in one day because because obviously the investors etc. don't see the vision that he has. It's like it lost them a lot of money a couple of weeks ago, but it's a future project. It's not something that's going to be instantly an instant hit. But
you gotta be brave enough to stick with something until it is right. I think a lot of Microsoft's early projects, they'd come out with a tablet pretty early and some other things, and I felt like they gave up on some of those early projects too soon, right? And then Apple would come along later with a better version of that, and it would take off. Game Pass wasn't a tremendous hit at launch, and then it looks like a lot of the industry is going to be adopting that. So the trick is to not be so early that you run out of money before people are interested, but also to be brave enough to support something until people do take on But there's a general hate for Facebook and Meta. I see, at
Oh,
least
there
on
is.
Twitter. I don't
Yes.
know how much that translates to a general audience. It seems like most of the people I know outside of Twitter don't have any of that.
Oh, I've got Facebook.
Me too. Me
But
too.
I
Well, I keep in
but
track with people that I went to school with, etc. I
but I
don't.
have a spade where I just deactivate the account, not delete it, and then I reappear. I do.
Sure.
But
But
still
in my
counts still there.
opinion, their
Yeah.
headset's my favorite one right now. The wireless is huge for me. Being able to, the versatility is huge for me. So I'm
That's where it has
excited
to
for what
be.
they do next. Yeah.
Well,
And
it has to be wireless.
if you want to
know.
support only companies that you completely agree with their ethics on, then you're going to find yourself in the yard with a kick, a can to kick around and a stick to play with, probably. And I'm not
It's
saying
true.
intentionally go out of your way and support a company that you really don't like their practices. I'm not saying that at all. But man, you're going to run out of options pretty quick if everything you buy or support has to agree with your ideology completely.
Well, that's true. I mean, one of the community's finest, Lord Cognito, actually works for Oculus now.
That's why I got him
He's got.
blocked. Yeah. I don't really see.
Oh no, you haven't.
No.
But he was very excited. He was when he got that job. He told DM'd him.
That's awesome.
To
Yeah.
congratulate him.
Very cool. Very cool. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't have any idea what that would be like, but if he's happy, that's awesome.
Exactly. But yes, it's So another question I wanted to ask you. You've obviously explained your VR content. Now, this song business making you got into, what
Sure.
inspired you to do that? Because
You
it's
want
not
like the long
something.
version or the short version?
Well, whichever version you would prefer. It's quite. That Sea of Thieves one. You didn't see a Thieves song, didn't you?
Yeah, we did.
That's
Yep.
a good one.
Yep. I don't remember what birthday it was, but I always wanted to play guitar, and I never could afford lessons or anything like that. You know what I mean? A little kid,
Yeah.
really wanted to play guitar. And at some point, when I finally had a decent job and an internet connection, I bought myself a guitar, and I would get on YouTube and practice tablature and stuff like that. And I've got some old videos from that stuff. I never got very good. I plateaued very quickly, despite pretty diligent practice and practice the right way, like making myself practice things I didn't want to practice, right? Not just playing the thing I like. And I never got very good. And eventually, I picked up a ukulele, which I have here, not far away. And I love this thing. I love this thing because it just happens that what I learned on guitar transferred pretty well, and it's much easier to play.
Okay, fair enough.
So
Nice.
I dabbled a little bit, kind of writing and playing with that, and enjoyed that a lot. But I always had an interest in music. And then when we were getting into creating content more, I had the notion that would be unique content that people might find interesting. That if we would do these celebrations of games and content as they came out, to make songs for them. And the first one was Hoist the Colors for the Sea of Thieves Pirates Life expansion. Yeah, and I think in some ways that's my favorite one because I think it was exciting. It was like a childhood dream realized, that I was able to participate in the creation of music, which really I Am Universe 25, his work putting together the instruments and the background and then mixing our voices. He's the reason that we were able to execute it, which is also why I loaned him my headset probably. But then also Steph and Dan, and then Chris also, his vocals included. They're every one of them more talented than I am. But it was really a childhood dream realized to create that. And I was so proud of it. And I really thought it would take off because I didn't really see anyone else doing that.
It was good, man. I don't understand why it didn't. It's got 317 views, but it deserves far more than that. It was a really good bit of content, and I thought more people would have actually checked it out than they did. I mean, I think you tried to tag quite a few people in it, didn't you? To try.
Yeah, I pushed it. I pushed it regularly, more than I normally do. Usually, if I put anything online, if people engage with it, great. If they don't, I'm not going to beat them with it, right? Because people don't follow me because of the content I create. Most of them, right? Most of them have followed me out of niceness because I commented off and irritated them, right? But nobody wants to be beat with the content you create, right? So I really don't like to do that. I do post every video that comes out when it comes out, but I don't repost. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, the Hoist the Colors is probably an exception that I did try to push that pretty hard. And I will say I even had some insiders forward that to Joe Neat himself of Sea of Thieves, though I never heard back, and it was never showcased on any of their community highlights or anything like that. And I don't know
So
if,
that's a shame. That is.
well, maybe there was something I don't know about it, right? Like some concern because that song, and I don't know the exact origin of it. I remember seeing it in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Maybe there was some concern about copyright issues with us doing a cover of it. I don't know. It's not the video wasn't monetized. You know what I mean? But yeah, I had really high hopes that would blow up. And then, see, we kind of rotated who got to pick which song we were going to do next, right? And I think our second one was probably Come Fly With Me, which was Dan wanted to do that one, and that was for the flight simulator coming to console.
That's true. That is.
Yep.
I'm looking at your channel now.
Yeah. And I thought that Dan really did well on that. And you can tell that his vocal range is far superior to mine. And I did the video editing for that one, which we didn't have the ability to capture high quality footage of that game. So I had to chop up trailers mostly to make that happen. So I wasn't completely thrilled with it, but it turned out pretty good. And our goal was to have that release about when the game released, to strike while the iron was hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that. Which one did we do after that one?
You did. Let's have a look.
Because you've got the
that's the way it is cover.
Oh yeah, that was
Redemption tribute.
Yep, I Am Universe 25. That was his baby. He wanted to do that one and invited me to do vocals with him as well. And then the video for that one was pretty simple, but I thought that turned out pretty well. And then probably our next big one that we all did together, because he did kind of a solo one for Silent Hill that really turned out very well. And that one's super cool. We should spend a moment on that one because Masuko, if he's still watching in the comments, he created all the art for that video original. For that video, we reached out to him way before it was done, and he put them together and sent them to us, and we edited them. I thought really cool because we worked with another content creator. I really enjoy Masuko's art. He's such a nice person just in general anyway. So that was awesome. And really his art probably elevated it. That was a cool project. And then we did Amazing Grace a cappella for Back for Blood, which I enjoyed a lot. I spent a lot of time making that video. And that was fun because we all played that one together when we captured the footage and then put it all. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know how many views that had, but I mean, easily 20 hours work just in the capturing footage and editing and mixing, you know what I mean? Plus all the time I'm Universe 25 had mixing the song itself. And that was very challenging. That song is way harder to sing than it sounds.
He's appeared for you. He's still here, Masuko. He's put friendly press. Fist pump.
Hats off to him. His art's awesome. I love looking at his art.
He's incredible at art. I think you might underestimate how good he actually is. He's a great community member and good friend. He's a great guy. He is.
He really is fantastic. It really what makes that video special, in my opinion. I was hoping it would get more views just for him, you know. That's another thing about our content did not do well, but it was fun. I really enjoyed making those tributes. That was probably my favorite part. Though, like the podcast was okay, but I really enjoy the musical tributes and thinking about them and going back and forth and arguing about the mixes and stuff like that. And then I Am Universe 25 would send some cleverly named files. Like I think the final version of Hoist the Colors was Grady Got His Way mix, something like that. So that was a lot of fun.
Sounds good. That does. It's content isn't easy to get views on. But they have done 127 views and they have done quite well. It's hard to get big traction on videos. YouTube's weird, but a lot of them videos deserve far more views than they actually got.
Well, it's the healthy way to think about it is to create them for fun, and then
that's exactly what YouTube's about, and it should be.
hope that other people like what you find fun and engage with you, because that's part of the fun, right? And it can be very frustrating and makes it difficult to continue sometimes when you're not getting much attention or engagement. But I mean, even a handful of regulars make a huge difference. You know, my VR videos, I've got a handful of regulars that will come in and comment and point out the stupid things I'm doing wrong in a very nice way. And in that way, they actually make the game a better experience for me, without spoiling anything. They help me along, and I try to post their comments on there so they get credit for that and share their channels if they're creating content as well. But that's a fun part of creating YouTube videos, is to have people engage with you. And like, the game's already fun. If you enjoy editing videos, you're having a good time there. And then engaging with people, just, it's like icing on the cake of something you already like. You know what I mean?
That's exactly true. It is, and it's glad to hear you don't let the numbers drive you crazy, because many people do. It's all about having fun. It is. You've got
Oh,
the
I
correct
get
mindset.
frustrated.
You
Don't get
have.
me wrong. No, I
Yeah.
try to have the correct mindset, but
Yeah.
it can be frustrating, and I let it get to me sometimes, and then try to pump myself back up off some comments and make some more stuff and see if people like it. And if they don't, it is what it is. Maybe I'll try some different content or something like that. But I've stuck this out, what I'm doing right now, for quite a while. I haven't counted the videos, but I've been putting out 3 videos a week for somewhere around 6 or 7 weeks, I'd say. And I've made it a different video for each day that I put out, hoping that, maybe one series will grab somebody more than the other, and that they can engage with that. And that's been the case. I've picked up some regulars for each series I'm doing right now. And then I also want to put some effort into highlighting some more indie titles, smaller stuff that regularly see it on Twitter. They'll put up demos for this or that, and if I can help them highlight their content, that'll be good for them, good for me, and give me another series to do. So I might try to add something like that at some point.
That's exactly true. It's like when indie gamers says, do content about the things you're passionate about. And that's exactly what you're passionate about currently, is VR. And that's the best content to produce, what you're passionate about.
And I'll get back to music too, because it actually, with my videos, I've been able to mix my interests, my passions, right? Because the intros for every one of those series I created. The Into the Radius, I'm especially proud of the intro for Into the Radius. I wrote that on my ukulele and sent the vocals to I Am Universe 25, and then he used some software to send back what I had done, but with a choir, right? And that, I love that intro. I love that intro. And then the let's see, Legendary Tales and Half-Life Alyx, those were more just me making those in software. So while they're good, I'm not as proud of those. And then the Skyrim series is one of the bard songs from Skyrim, me playing on my ukulele and singing that. So I'm able to mix my hobbies a little bit with those intros. I want to put effort into that. You know what I mean?
And that's exactly what how you say. You can tell you've got the passion for it. And creating your own intros, is it different for each video?
Yes.
Did you say?
Yep. Yeah. I'm glad that you've watched the content. No, it's a each video series has its own. Now, not each video, but each series has its own intro. Yep. And I like, and you can even tell, like, the first couple Into the Radius episodes used the version of that before I Am Universe 25 upgraded it with his software and choir effects. It greatly improved that. I'm very proud of that. So, like, if you listen to like the 5th episode or so, that's in there. But yeah, every series has its own intro, and as I do new series in the future, I plan on doing that, create unique music for each one. I think that's fun. I enjoy that process, and that's actually been the most lengthy part of each series I've done, is to put together the music for the intro, with maybe the exception Skyrim, because I had to learn how to mod my PC, and that was frustrating, and I'd never done that before. I'm sure it's a walk in the park for seasoned PC gamers, but I hadn't modified a PC game since Half-Life 1. So that took some time.
That's actually fun that you make an intro for you see for each individual series. It's quite unique because a lot of content creators just slap, they have a video intro and it's the same on each video, whereas you go in depth and make your own music, an intro for each video series.
Yeah, and I've got a formula to try to make the editing faster. Because when I started, it would take me 5 hours to edit a video. Then I've got kind of a formula I've settled into that I like, that I don't see myself improving on too much, where I'll pick a highlight from the video and that will play just a few seconds. So people aren't eating an intro, right? They're immediately getting some footage that's going to set the flavor for what they can expect. And then it'll cut to the music and have a little title card, or whatever, and then the back to the content. So I like that formula, and making that kind of standard. I've really improved my production. I'll capture 2 games if I have time on Friday night, and then I will capture the 3rd game Saturday, and then edit them all up and schedule the releases for the week. And then I try to wait again until next Friday to capture, because I want to be able to respond to comments and add those into the videos if they pertain to the video, etc.
That's exactly the way to do it. That is, it's your consistency. That's the thing. It's like I have a thing where I say I make a video, it never happens, but you're consistently putting out 2 videos a week, and you have
Three,
thoughts
yeah.
3 videos. That's even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, Monday,
Oh,
Wednesday, Friday.
3 videos a week
Yeah.
for
And
six or 6 to 8 weeks. You have been.
Yeah, and I'm putting them out at 7 in the morning, which I know is not that's 7 in the morning. I know that's not a hot time slot, but I also don't want to walk on anybody else. And there's a lot of content creators, and because it's not like it's live, they can watch it at their leisure. So yeah, they're scheduled. Like I got one scheduled for tomorrow, Into the Radius, 7 a.m. And then after that, I'll read the comments, and then start capturing my Half-Life episode for next Monday. And if I'm feeling up to it, get my Skyrim episode in. And that gives people a day or so to comment on the End of the Radius episode before I record for that, in case I want to add. They just learned something huge, like the comment I got for my Half-Life episode Monday. Apparently, if you put a hard hat on your head, it can save you from a certain type of mob that grabs you from above. It'll take the hard hat instead of you. So see, I'm learning things. So I love that about the people that watch and tell me things. I wouldn't have figured that out. You know what I mean? So I don't like wearing a hat in VR, because you can see it in your peripheral vision. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I'd have never figured that out, but I'm totally going to wear one now.
That's it. That's interesting. Is this on your Friendly Pest channel? Yes, I believe it is.
Yes, it is. I've got a separate playlist for the original music that I've written and created, which I've done 3 of those, and I've not done anything else on that. But I want to get back into it a little bit. And then there's a separate playlist for the VR content, and I have considered doing some standard games as well. But and I said that I play games when I'm recording the way I play games regularly. And that's partially true, right? Because I just give voice to my thoughts. I don't try to be a clown, but I only capture, say, 30 to 45 minutes of footage, and then I'm done for the week, right? So like when Lost Ark came out, thank you for the sub indie game. I really appreciate that. When Lost Ark came out, I wanted to try that, and I considered making content for it. But if I did that, then it would be 30 to 45 minute episodes, and I didn't want to play the game that way. So that's the only difference. So certain games I don't want to create content for, because I just want to sit and play and be able to play as long as I want, and not worry about chopping it up into episodes and creating content or responding to feedback. So there is that difference, I guess.
That is fair enough. But you seem to have a plan as to what you want to do, and that's great. You schedule 3 videos a week. You've literally doing exactly what you want, and it seems like you've got a plan going forward. Now, going into the future, have you got any future plans you'd like to take the channel, or are you just playing it? Are you playing it by week, or have you got any future visions or plans to expand your channel any further?
Yeah, I'm considering that. The series I'm going to continue. Like, how long am I going to continue a series? Right? Because I only have so much free time. I only have so much airspace, right?
Yeah.
So that question comes up. But I have some regulars that, like one person in particular, he gets VR nausea, which we haven't talked about.
Oh,
And maybe we can
okay.
talk about that if you remind me. But he really wanted to play Half-Life Alyx, but it made him nauseous. So I absolutely want to finish Half-Life Alyx. Because he's a regular watcher, sends me comments, and he does it through a different application, sends me comments. He doesn't often comment on the video, but he's really enjoying those. And so I'm definitely going to finish that game, right? So that's one thing I'm going to do. How far I go in Skyrim, I don't know. I will probably play that until I'm not having a good time. And I'm not a completionist of any kind of game. I probably used to be more than I am now, but with my limited free time, I kind of want to play whatever I want to play. Right. And the minute something is not really fun for me anymore, I will move on to whatever I want to play more. Right. When you have limited time, you have to use that as best you can.
You do.
'Cause
Yeah.
it's just my wife and I, and spending time together plus work and then taking care of the house and things like that. Uh, you have to use your free time as efficiently as you can. And I've dedicated some of it to creating this content. So as soon as something's not fun, I'm going to move on to a different game and continue different series. And I've got some other ideas that I don't want to announce here yet. That
No,
I'm actively working on something that I think would be cool and kind of unique, or more unique than not. And we'll see. Hopefully that will start to show up in the next couple weeks, even. But it's not ready for prime time yet, and I don't really want to talk about it too much because I hate to give away too many ideas, right?
no, you are right.
Yeah, you give away
Keep it close to
ideas,
your
and
chest.
not only does somebody else pick it up, but they're better at it than you are. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah, it's fair enough. That is, but yeah, it seems like you're on the right track with your channel. You're enjoying what you're doing, and that's the main. That's all. That's all it's about is making content you enjoy and you have passion for. It is. So, just the last question here. So, if you were to give anyone advice about if they wanted to get into, say, podcasting or any kind of content creation, and they were like and ahhing about it, what would you say to them?
my advice to somebody create content,
Yeah,
I don't know if that's very valuable. Well, I would encourage them because there are more tools available now than has ever been, right?
yeah,
I would advise them to remain anonymous as much as possible without putting too much of their real life out there,
yeah,
because as time passes and they grow as a person, and they might not like the stuff they used to do and want that attached to their name, you know what I mean? So it'll be easier to grow and improve if you stick with a more anonymous route. Um, but as far as that goes, so it's so much easier to create content now than even it was like the first YouTube videos I created probably 8 or 10 years ago, probably closer to 10. And I just recently found a hard drive, by the way, that has those on it. So
really.
yeah,
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
considering
Oh,
uploading some of them for fun because I thought
yeah.
some of it was pretty good even.
Oh,
Anyway,
yes. Do
and
it.
I used to create my content. Man, I'm getting off track here, but I used to use it somewhat as a journal or diary. Even, it was like whatever I was thinking about that week, I would think about, and there's some emotional episodes in there. And that stuff's interesting to go back to in the way that you would if you look back to something you had written when you were younger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like if you want to create content, think about my approach might be different because I want to add to a space I'm in a way that's not already being done or done well. And man, there's so much content out there that depending on the space you're in, that's not going to leave you a lot to do. So if there's just something that you think you'll have fun doing, that has to be your first priority. For me, I don't want to try to compete with airtime doing things that other people are already going to do better than I'm going to do anyway. So
Exactly. Would you? Excellent advice there for people. Daft Practices asked the question: Elden Ring VR. I
I'll
know
meet
this
it.
currently doesn't exist, does it? But someone will bring a mod out, won't they?
I hope so. I hope so. How fantastic would that be? That would be a great game. I wish more games would consider VR as a launch. It's so different mechanically, right? That it's not as easy as just putting it on another platform, right? Because you have to build those mechanics up from the ground, unless you just have kind of a hybrid support where it's your video, but you still use a gamepad. But yeah, I'd be all about that. I know there's a fan apparently of Cyberpunk 2077, and they're soon to release a mod to make that playable in VR, and that's exciting to me because I just recently started playing that, and I'm not crazy about it. In a couple ways, I like CD Projekt Red. I think Witcher 3 is in my top 3 favorite games ever made, but I'm not big on the cool, edgy, future dystopia, dirty vibe. You know what I mean? But everybody's all edgy and cool, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not into it. I played that some, and it's part of that and part of the pacing. So I don't like. This is another tangent. I like things that follow their own rules, and be a movie, a game, whatever. It needs to follow the rules that it sets for itself. And so long as it does that, no matter how stupid it is, I'm into it. But as soon as it starts to break those rules, I'm not very interested. And one of the problems I have with very futuristic games or movies is that there really are no rules, right? Because it's all bullshit, nanotech, whatever, anything can happen. So I feel like in that way, I'm just kind of generally not interested. Way back around, the idea of Cyberpunk in VR is pretty exciting because I think that would improve the gunplay or make it more interesting to me, or maybe just the way you explore the world and interact with it could be a completely different experience. I would probably be pretty up for that. So we'll see when that person's mod comes out, whether or not it's viable. I'll look at that. But
I'm imagining it would be great because a lot of these VR, I'm guessing a lot of these VR people that make mods, they really go all in on trying to make a great experience for people. They do.
it's not easy. And they're learning.
But it's not.
As the games come out, they're kind of figuring out. You've got so much information when you're making a traditional game for how people are going to react to the content or the challenges and the puzzles and the mechanics, etc. And in VR, you don't have that as much. And if anything, you've got a wider audience because more people from different backgrounds and age groups are going to check it out. So I think it's finding the tools that fit everyone well in a way that's intuitive and not frustrating is something they're going to figure out.
That's definitely true. That is. It's not an area I know much about. You are the
I am not. I am just a fan. As so many people more qualified to talk about that than me because I really have not. It's like generally, if I'm into something, I will research it to death, and I've not done that with VR. I have researched it enough to be able to play what I wanted to play. So there's a lot out there that I'm not even aware of that I don't know. I'll say on Wednesdays, Mr. Tushy and I, Universe 25, we've got together for kind of a VR night, which has been a ball. And there's a handful. Oh yeah, we had a bowling night, which was awesome. And Rec Room's got a 3D charades thing that I enjoy a lot, and then some shooters. And we've really had fun meeting pretty consistently on Wednesdays. We missed a couple, but I don't know where I was going with that. But that's a pretty good time too. Completely lost my train of thought.
But what, in midweek gaming slot by any chance?
What's that?
In midweek gaming slot by any chance?
I don't know. What time do you do that show?
5 p.m. EST.
Probably best I don't answer then.
No,
that's actually when we've been starting. Yeah, we've been playing at 5.
Yeah, but it's because midweek gaming's until like midnight.
I haven't, Darth. What have you seen? They've got some cool stuff. Like that's what's exciting about VR is you don't know what they're going to do next. You see the treadmills or the haptic vests, and then the software is getting. There's some games you can play just with your hands. You don't even need to hold controllers. Like the future of it's pretty exciting because it's so wide open. There's going to be so much like early Nintendo experimentation. You know what I mean, with the guns and the rifles and the little robot and all kinds. You never knew what Nintendo was going to try next. And you have a lot of that with VR. It's so early. Yeah, shock vests. That sounds fun.
Yeah, you never know what's going to work and what's not. So something will work, something won't. But anyway, it's been fun having you on The Friendly Pest. Would you like to tell people where they could find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at A Friendly Pest. That's also my YouTube channel. Those are currently really the only platforms I spend any time on. But if you wanted to check it out, awesome. I don't recommend looking at my tutorial videos first. Maybe come back to them later. I put them up there. If you start with that, you will be as frustrated as I was when I recorded it, because the mechanics really got the best of me. But yeah, and then say I don't know if Carry On Gaming is going to pick back up again. There's been some talk about it, but like I said, everybody's in different places in their life, so we'll see. But then I've got some future projects planned also that I think are exciting. I just need to figure out when you schedule all your content, so that's when I can put my stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, I did live content in a minute, so I won't worry about it. It. Yeah, I need to make some videos, don't I? As well, I do.
What would you create? What would you be interested in doing?
I have got videos. I have got written videos, ideas. But it's nothing unique. It's on stuff that's already out there. But it's on. I've got a load of subjects on a certain thing I mention every podcast. Yes.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard of it. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
But any.
anymore. What I'm interested in watching really has more to do with whether or not it has more to do with the person that creates it than the content itself. I want to support people I like. I want to support people that support me, and if they're having a good time creating what they're creating, then I'm going to have a good time watching it. So that's interesting for me.
No, that's true. It's the best way to be. It is. But thanks for coming on, a friendly press. It's been a fun conversation. It has. I've
You know,
enjoyed having you on.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I understand that you ran out of people with audiences to have on as a guest, and I like that I fit in anyway. No, I do appreciate you having me on and giving me an opportunity to talk a little more in a way that I don't do well in larger groups. So I appreciate that.
No, I definitely did not run out of guests. So don't discredit yourself. You're a great content creator. You're a great guy.
Well,
And
I only said that so
you've
you'd
been a
say
great
that. I
guest.
appreciate it.
But it's been good. I know you were a little bit nervous, but it seemed like you got over that. You did.
I do.
Been
I
fun.
do. I start out nervous, then I talk too much, and I lose track of what I was going to
Yes.
say. Frustrating. But it's okay. I didn't have a script because I asked you for the questions beforehand, and you wouldn't send them to me.
Yeah, because I haven't got because I didn't have any. That's why. Because I know
I
exactly
thought
what.
you were going to ask me what I've been going through in my personal life lately, but I'm glad you
No,
didn't
I
because
don't.
I'd have
I
told you.
don't.
You know what I mean?
No, I don't mention anything private, and I no, it's just strictly gaming. Unless somebody wants to say something like that, then that's different. But I try and keep away from that kind of stuff because
Yeah,
it's
it's vaguely put. It went through some huge challenges earlier in the year, and outside of the current nature of the world at large, pretty optimistic. You know what I mean? So that's another reason I said give people a pass because you don't know what they're going through. You really don't. And people could
that's
be going through.
true.
Yeah, feels good. Happy to be here. I enjoy making content. Thank you to the people that like watching it or checking it out. And if there's anything they're interested in, I'd love to know because it's fun for me, especially if it's fun for them. So I'm just happy to be here.
But yeah, thanks for coming on. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, please like and share on social media if you enjoyed this. This podcast will be going on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you could please leave a 5-star rating if you enjoyed the show over there. It helps boost the podcast algorithm. It also does. And tomorrow night, I'm going to give the Indie Gamers podcast a shout out. If you're on the podcast platforms, you probably go over to the Indie Gamers podcast. If you go onto YouTube, type Indie Gamer, you'll find you'll find his channel, and it will be up there. So it's tomorrow night. He's got a YouTuber called, I hope I say this name right, Rayleigh. He's a great indie games not podcast, sorry, indie games content creator. He's a great in the community. He's and I believe it's 8 p.m. UK time. If everyone in chat wants to check that out tomorrow night, it'll be a fun show with it'll be Indie Gamer, Luke Steele, Judzilla, I think VJ's on and Rayleigh. And hopefully you can all check that out. But yeah, thanks, Friendly Press, for coming on. It's been a fun chat. It has.
Yep,
So
much appreciated, and thank you to everyone that watched and commented. And Darth, anytime you're my way, let me know. You're more than welcome to crash in the cave.
thanks, Matt Barnes, as well, for stopping in. I'll see you there. Anyway, see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.